Hello everyone and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Romney. I am a creator of sorts. I make short films and visual diaries here on YouTube. I also love writing and photography and poetry and all sorts of different artistic expressions. I'm currently writing a book, which I will talk about later on in this video, but I asked you guys on here and over on Instagram as well to send in questions about filming and creating and art and magic and girlhood and life and everything in between, and you guys sent in some really lovely and profound questions, so I will go ahead and answer those right now. Question 1, how do I become confident in sharing my art? Plus, how do I grow my audience on Instagram? I feel like you need to stop being afraid to be seen and being afraid to be heard as well. And at the beginning, it will most likely feel so cringe, but as they say, to be cringe is to be free. And then the confidence just comes with time and practice, I think. As for growing your Instagram from a more analytical sense, I would recommend posting both reels and picture posts and having a consistent schedule that you feel like you can stick to, as well as just posting things that you genuinely love and that you yourself would want to see on your Instagram feed. Next question, 2 questions in one from 2 different people. The first one is, how do you find inspiration for your short films, like angles and lighting? Second question, how do you get every shot to look so beautiful and aesthetic? I love your content. Thank you so much. For inspirations, it definitely just starts with like what is currently going on in my head. Like I'm always having daydreams and conversations inside of my head, and those usually ignite the ideas that I have for my short films. And then that sort of translates into the writing process. And then after that is kind of when the aesthetic and the world building comes into play. And in terms of like getting those shots, I think it just comes from having a very clear vision and then knowing where to place the camera in order to focus on what you think is very interesting. There's a quote by Michelangelo that a lot of people reference about carving into marble, and that's simply your job as an artist when you are creating something or sculpting something is just to take away the things that are not the sculpture, essentially. So that's kind of how I view film and photography. Next question, which isn't really a question, more so just something that will stroke my ego, is you should write a poem book or a romance novel or a novel book. So I actually am working on a book. I don't want to say too much because it is an idea that is still evolving and changing as I work on it, which is okay. I suppose that means it's alive, which is good. But essentially it will be a collection of short stories and poetry and diary entries and photography as well. And it will revolve around my journey finding my voice as a writer and an artist, and I'm really excited about it. It's been my passion project. I've been working on it since February. It does not currently have like a publisher or anything. We're not there yet. I'm about 1/3 of the way through, maybe a little less than that, depending on what it becomes, but my goal for this summer is to try to get it in front of the right eyes in terms of publishing. So yeah. Next question. What are some of the books, movies, people that have inspired your work? For me, I've always been very inspired by old stories about girls, and particularly about girls becoming women. So anything like Little Women or Anne of Green Gables or Jane Eyre, any kind of heroic, triumphant stories about girls. And even in a more modern sense, I love stuff like the Gilmore Girls, like stories that feel very real, that like totally like center femininity and female relationships in different and unique ways. And then with that, all of the people that have written these amazing stories, as well as later on brought these stories on to big screens as well. Next question is, if you were written by an author, who would it be? This definitely depends on which story of my life is being told. I like to think right now maybe my life is written by like Louisa May Alcott. Inspiring story, possibly about me and my sisters, I suppose, and how we're each on different paths. However, if my story is like written when I was a teenager or like my early year 20s, like 18, 19, 20, it would probably be something by like Charlotte Bronte, with much more dramatic tones and twists and turns. Next question, how do you maintain a motivation to create? I find motivation easy, but is always hard to sustain. Another question that kind of goes with this is, how do you find courage to write and create things? I'm always terrified I'll be bad at it, and the fear of being bad paralyzes me, and I don't like it, but I don't know how to fix it. I put these questions together because I think motivation and courage kind of go hand in hand when creating things. For me, in order to have the motivation to create, I have to take the pressure off of it being good or being great every single day. I think we as writers and artists and creators have these unrealistic expectations that every day when we sit down to write something or create something, that it has to be great and magnificent, when that's just not realistic, and that's not going to be the case most of the time. And I more so see it as something that I just have to do in order to express my own emotions and get them out of my body and onto the page or into whatever I'm doing. And that way it can clear more space in my mind and my psyche for new things to come in. And then that motivates me to want to create more, which also results in more inner peace as well. It's very therapeutic. It is as essential as food and water, essentially, if you look at it this way. But I think when you take the pressure off of being great, you start expressing from a place that feels very honest and true and authentic to yourself. And I think that's when you start making art that feels very human, and in that you can find great work. But making bad art is very essential to making good art, and sometimes bad art can be very good indeed. Next question. What inspires your deepest realms of creation? I love that they said deepest realms. I think the aura of my past, present, and future selves really inspire me, as well as the ability to be seen and heard by other people, and that human connection that I find through it is like one of the most fulfilling things in the entire world. What is a childhood dream that you have achieved? And my answer is actually this. I literally always wanted to do something like this. Even when I was a little girl and being a YouTuber or an influencer or content creator did not exist. That was not a thing that people were. But even back then I was envisioning something like this. I thought maybe I would have a blog or something like that. I just wanted to have a space that I could curate the vibes and just share and create whatever it is I wanted. I think the way people share and create content is always evolving and changing. And honestly, if I could do this for the rest of my life, I would be so happy in whatever medium or whatever platform it may be on. What app do you use for editing your videos? I use Final Cut Pro for editing my YouTube videos, and then for Reels and TikToks, I use CapCut on my phone. Unless it's a really simple video, I'll just edit it in the app on Instagram or TikTok. How do you edit your videos? I really like the vibe. Thank you so much. I will someday make a video all about how exactly I edit my videos. However, I don't think I've perfected it yet or perfected my own personal editing style yet. But when I do, I will definitely be sharing that. What is the name of the font you use on your YouTube thumbnails? For YouTube thumbnails, I use Canva, which I love. I love Canva so much. I use it for so many different things. Fonts I use on there are either Sloop Script Pro, Citadel Script, or Old Standard. And then on Final Cut, I use Edwardian Script and Pinion Script, and then CapCut is Pinion Script as well. What camera do you use? I use for YouTube videos, right now I'm using the Canon EOS R50, and I used to use the Canon G7X, and I still do use that sometimes when I'm more so on the go. Next question, what film cameras do you use? Do you have any inspirations when you go and take photographs? For film photography, I use the Vivitar V4000, which I bought at an antique store. My point and shoot is the Olympus Stylus Epic Zoom 80, which so far this has been my favorite one in terms of the quality of photo. This was bought online at a vintage camera store called Cute Cameras Co. What I'll say about Cute Cameras Co., it's a good place to find vintage film cameras. They are definitely overpriced. I could have probably found this a lot cheaper at an antique store or something like that. However, when you do buy them from online curated stores like this, you don't have to worry about having to possibly fix them up, get them fixed. You don't have to worry about finding the specific battery that goes with them. So it just takes out all of that. Particularly with film photography and my inspiration. So I'm just very inspired by the things that are going on around me. I love taking pictures of my friends or flowers or nature, or just random little moments that my eye captures inside my room or something. What is your greatest advice to younger girls? I actually just wrote something about this, so it's very prevalent in what I've been thinking lately. But I think if I could paraphrase, it's just don't let other people tell you who you are, because you are the captain of your own ship, you are the writer of your own story, and also you have time in your life to do whatever it is you want to do or be whoever it is you want to be. Do you get other people to take some clips of you, or are they all self-taken? Love you, by the way. Love you too. 90% of the time it is just me with my tripod in my room. The other 10% I have my mom help me, or I have my friends Khalil and Abdul help me as well. How did you figure out what you wanted to do with your life? I'm interested in so many different things, so I'm scared to only pick one and stick with it. This one. I think it's so normal to have so many different dreams and so many different things you want to do with your life. I think most people have this internal struggle, and it can feel like you're running out of time, and we're all haunted by the fig tree analogy. Personally, I find the most inner peace when I allow all of my multifaceted different interests and passions coexist with one another and sort of fuel one another in a way. And in terms of deciding what it is you want to do with your life, I would say just pick the thing that sets your soul on fire the most and be okay and open to that changing and evolving. And you can't have a scarcity mindset around your dreams. That's what I've come to the conclusion of. You have time for it all. Just take it one step at a time, one dream at a time. And hopefully those can kind of coexist with each other and help each other, and one dream can take you to the next dream, like stepping stones. Tips for aspiring content creators. A couple things I wrote down here. Number one is try different things. The first few years of doing stuff like this, it will literally just feel like throwing different stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. After you find what sticks, you still have to keep constantly evolving it, because people will get bored and you will get bored because you're a creative person that needs to change and evolve with your art. Be consistent and be patient. I think we hear so many stories about overnight successes, and those seem to be like the most prevalent and the most common, but really that is like the minority of creators. And for most people, it takes years to make this a career. So you kind of just have to love it, because you really do have to stick to it. And then the last thing is make the kind of content that you yourself love and would want to see. If you would click on it, if you would not scroll past that reel, if you would click on it on your explore page, then it's probably something that has some kind of value. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to start filming digital diaries? So in terms of creating this kind of like lifestyle diary vlog like content, I think a lot of people get hung up on feeling like their life isn't aesthetic enough to share. But I think we have to remember that like your fact, like what you are living, is another person's fiction, essentially, in terms of storytelling, and what you may deem as like mundane or just everyday, someone else may see and really relate to it and resonate with it. Because at the end of the day, like when people are consuming content, they kind of want to see themselves in you. Same thing when people are consuming art, people just want to see themselves in it. So I think if you are expressing and you are being authentically you, it will attract the right people. And along with that, just try out different filming styles, different editing styles, and see what sticks. You may find that you like to make videos, you know, talking to the camera. You may find that you like voiceovers more. Try long form versus short form. Like those are definitely different languages to try out. What aesthetic were you into before your current one? Did you ever have an emo phase or a 2015 Tumblr soft grunge phase? My style is always changing and evolving, and I'm trying not to define it by aesthetic anymore, but I did have a 2015 Tumblr soft grunge phase, and I'm so glad you asked because I've been wanting to talk about it. I will insert pictures here, but I was 15. This was 9 years ago. I had bleach blonde hair, like silvery bleach blonde hair, really dark brown eyebrows. I shopped at Hot Topic exclusively. This was the most depressed I've ever been. What can I say? It was the vibe of the time. How do you find your own individual style if you have so many, like switching from one style to the next with a closet that is full? What we need to do here is reflect and understand what it is exactly that you like about these different styles that you're attracted to. Find whatever that is and take those little bits and apply them into your own wardrobe, into your own outfit creations. I think this is really important, and this is something that I heard recently, but be aware of these styles that you like and appreciate, that you like to look at, versus what it is that you actually like to wear and what makes you feel good and confident and authentically you, because sometimes those two things can be different and there can be a disconnect there. And along with that, I understand if you want to have like a very cohesive look to you, but you actually don't have to be the same all the time. You can switch it up if you want. How were you able to turn social media into a career and build an audience? Were you ever afraid that you wouldn't succeed? This is something I'm very passionate about, and I was doing it mostly as like a side hustle, I guess you could say, for the first year. And I was working retail as my full-time job at this point. This was like during COVID. After that year, once I started finally like making a little bit of money at it, I quit my retail job to pursue this full time. However, I want to be really honest and say that I would not be able to do this if I didn't, like, I live at home with my mom, so I don't have to pay rent. And I want to say that because I don't want other people to like compare their journey to mine. Of course, I have like other expenses and things, but that's like a huge thing. I did have some fear that I wouldn't succeed, and I honestly still do, because I definitely feel like I'm still going uphill on the mountain. But I am, however, delusional enough to think that I will make it in this industry, which you do have to have a little bit of that delusional confidence to do so. How to deal with uncertainty in life. I'm constantly scared and helpless over things I can't really control. If you happen to have any tips, I would love to hear. Also, I love your little poems and videos and your style. Thank you so much. I feel this too, and I know a lot of people do. We all just need to take it one day at a time. And I know it's so scary to not know what you're doing and not know where you're going. And I feel this all the time as well. For me, and this may seem like stupid, or maybe you won't relate. Some of you will, of course, because we're all not that different, but we're just evolved animals on a planet, and nothing is that serious. The world is so big and we are so small and minuscule, which may sound depressing. Just because you're small doesn't mean you can't do big things. And I think this idea kind of takes the pressure off of life a little bit. We're all just human animals, and we're pretty much here for no reason, I think, at least. And I could be wrong. And I probably am wrong, and we're probably just all wrong about everything, and that's okay. 2 questions that I think kind of go together. Are there any personal or non-personal themes that inspire your poetry? Because I write bad poetry that I believe to be lovely, but I'd like to be more visceral with it. Thank you for using the word visceral. That's a good word. I think bad poetry is great. Sometimes it's like the most human way to express something. The themes that inspire my poetry are very personal. I wouldn't know how to write it if it wasn't personal, honestly, and that includes externally things that are happening to me, but also I feel like my best stuff comes from like internally things that are happening to me, like internal conversations that are happening inside my head, ideas that are ruminating, and weird desires and things like that. Tips for writing poetry. Also, what is your biggest inspiration for your writing? My biggest inspiration for writing poetry is the release and expression that it provides, as well as that human connection you can have when you are able to share it with other people. Favorite color combo? I would say red and also black, the color of desire and the color of despair. Les Mis, anyone? My question is, where did you get that beautiful outfit? When I posted this question, I posted this particular outfit with it, so I will answer that question now. My top is from Motel Rocks, my skirt is from Princess Polly, my tights are from Amazon, I think, and my shoes, I don't want to flash you guys, my shoes are from Cherry. I don't know how there is not a single article of clothing in my outfit that is not thrifted. Literally, put me in girl prison. Next question. What is your creative process like? What have been your main sources of inspiration lately? It definitely depends on the project, of course. But for example, for like my short films and my visual diaries that I make on YouTube, it kind of starts with like an idea that ruminates inside my head for a little while. Feels like it kind of has to like cook in there a little bit. And then once it feels like a fully formed thought is when I will give birth to it, basically, and translating what's going on in my head onto paper. And then after I can kind of conceptualize it in that way, that's when the aesthetic part comes in. Like I'll start making Pinterest boards of the aesthetic that I want to curate and kind of start world building in that way, which is always the really fun part for me. I'm a very feeling person, but I'm also like a very visual person. So combining these mediums of writing and poetry and then like the visual arts on top of that is like the most like authentic way for me to express something. And honestly, this might sound cliche or something, but what inspires me most is the people who watch my videos and give me like this really, really profound feedback is what inspires me and makes me want to keep going. So you guys are literally so kind, and I'm so lucky to have an audience that just like gets it, you know? Oh my gosh. Okay, that's all the questions. I got a lot of questions, guys, and I would love to make a part 2 or something to this video. If you guys like it, we can certainly have more conversations like this, but thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to the channel if you are not already. My next short film and visual diary comes out next Friday, May 24th, and it is called A Love Letter to Girlhood, and I'm very excited about it, so make sure you turn on those post notifications and be on the lookout for that. That's pretty much it. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!